So let's talk about outer game. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys some techniques and specifics. These are just basically gonna be a lot of the biggest things that guys do wrong in outer game. But before I give you the specifics, I wanna tell you the overarching principle of outer game. And I've kind of gotten to this with, it's based on a lot of stuff I've said before. But good outer game is designed to convey evolutionary attractive qualities, okay? So outer game, it's like, right? It's showing that you are that alpha in society. Outer game is basically showing that you are that in-demand 1% of guys that have the abundance, have all the girls into them. That's what you're doing with outer game. And again, if you are already that guy, it's helpful. But even if you're that guy on a cold approach or in a situation where you're just meeting someone, if you don't actively show it to them, they have no way to know it. Doesn't matter how cool you are, it matters how cool you allow them to see that you are, okay? So if you're the coolest guy ever and you walk up to a girl and you have a small talk conversation and you never let her know that it's a man-to-woman interaction, you're never gonna get anywhere. You have to actually broach that. So that's absolutely critical, right? But it is all about conveying those characteristics. So everything we do is conveying those characteristics one way or another. So these are very, very simple, but they are the things you can do in outer game more than anything else that will get you results. Number one, talk louder, right? Everybody in this room probably already knows that. However, how many people in this room actually do it? Nobody's hand went up. Good, couple, right? To a certain extent. One of the biggest things I see over and over again, especially on the open, but throughout an interaction. Hi, excuse me. Are you, oh shit, never mind. I guess she didn't like me, right? You have to, first of all, you have to be heard. But secondly, even beyond just being heard, talking loud conveys good things about you, okay? If you talk loud to someone, it conveys you have certainty in what you're saying. If you talk quietly, it conveys you lack certainty in what you're saying, right? So if I walk up to you, I'm like, hey, I thought you're cute, I wanted to meet you, right? What does it say? It says I'm not sure of myself, I'm nervous. It also quite possibly says I'm afraid of other people hearing this, right? If you're afraid of people hearing what you're saying, what does that say? I'm creepy, right? I'm afraid of people hearing this because I'm ashamed of what I'm doing and what I'm doing is creepy. If you walk up to a girl and the first thing that's being sub-communicated is I'm creepy, do you think she's gonna respond well to you? Absolutely not. Whereas if you go in and you're a little too loud, it's fine, right? Now maybe you draw a little bit of attention. Oh, sorry, that was a little over the top. Hi, nice to meet you. You tone it down and you're fine, right? At least you've conveyed you're confident, you've conveyed you're okay with whatever's going on. And if you get a lot of social attention on you, fine. You should be okay with that as well. That's the other thing you're conveying by being loud is you're conveying actual social proof, okay? You're conveying that you've had good responses throughout your life. Because if you go in and you speak loudly in front of a group, you're saying to everyone there, the times in the past in my life where I've spoken loudly, people have responded well to me, right? You're conveying that you're an attractive, popular person by virtue of the volume of your voice. That's it, okay? If you go in and you speak quietly, you're conveying, the times that I've drawn attention to myself before didn't work out very well for me. So I'm gonna talk to you like this now, right? It's not conveying a lot of good things. Not conveying good things. So very, very important, talk louder. Single biggest thing almost everybody could do to be better at game. Next. That's not very well written, but it says statements, not questions, if you can read off the side of the page. Statements, not questions. Okay, if I ask questions, especially the typical boring questions that most people ask, what I'm essentially doing is I'm asking the girl to be interesting, because I'm not, okay? If you walk up to a girl and you say, where are you from? What do you do? How old are you? Oh, cool. So do you like what you do? Cool. And where were you from before that? And how many brothers and sisters do you have? Right? You're doing a couple things. Number one, you're being really boring. She's heard all those questions before, hundreds, if not thousands of times. She's probably tired of answering them, right? If you talk to people a lot, like I talk to a lot of people. I meet a lot of people in a cold approach situation. When girls ask me what I do for a living, that's actually a good moment in the set. Like that means that they're bought in and they want to know me. You know what I do? I groan internally. Because I'm like, fuck, this question again? I'm like so bored with my own answer to this question, right? And that's me knowing that when they ask this, I'm a step closer to sex, okay? As a nice, virile, horny man. Even there, I'm groaning at the question. So you can imagine what a girl who's being hit on all the time, oftentimes by guys she doesn't want to be hit on by, and ask these questions, how she must feel, okay?
Have you ever told them, oh, I'm so bored with my answer to this question, when they ask that?
Yeah, sometimes. I wouldn't say it quite that way, but yeah, I've said essentially that message in a different way. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even feel like telling you, like, we don't even know each other, I'll answer that in like half an hour. Let's talk about something more interesting. I've done that before. Or I'll be like, you know what, I'm just gonna give you a bullshit answer, like, because I'm just tired of I'm tired of explaining this, so here's some bullshit, right? I've done that before. Whatever keeps you engaged in the conversation is actually better than whatever is good game, right? The inner game always trumps the outer game. However, if you can have both, that's good, right? That's what you ideally want. Okay, statements rather than questions. So most questions are asked out of a lack of something to say. Most questions come out of, oh shit, I like this person, I wish this conversation would keep going, but I don't really know what to say. So, where are you from? Right? That's how it mostly comes out, and that's exactly how it comes off, okay?
I like, where are you from? Just kidding, so.
Fair enough. Okay, so what you want to do in general is offer your own value and your own unique perspective. Remember, your value comes from your values. So the more that you convey who you are and what you're about, the better off you're going to do. So little things you can do in terms of statements, not questions. If you were to ask a question, what you can do is turn it into a statement. So instead of where are you from, which is boring and doesn't offer much and means that you have to provide whatever is interesting, I could say, you know what, you don't seem like an LA person. It's kind of an interesting vibe you have, right? That's more interesting. It's not like the world's best game move, but it's more interesting than where are you from. See the difference? Because when I say you don't seem like an LA person, there's a lot of my own ideas in that, right? I perceive him in a certain way. He might be curious as to what that is. Or I say you don't seem like an LA person. Well, what's an LA person? What's your perspective on that, right? I've at least conveyed some of my own perspective. The other way that you can handle this is you can do questions and turn them into statements. So for example, actually answer this time, where are you from?
Indiana.
Indiana? Oh, fuck, dude, that must have been terrible. There's a reason they call that a flyover state. Fuck, I'm sorry for you. All right? So what did I do? I had an opinion about it, right? Or if I'm feeling a little nicer, where are you from?
Indiana.
Oh, I fucking love that place. There's such people are so much more genuine there. You know what I mean? I feel like it's less bullshit than the coasts. So it's very cool. You're like salt of the earth.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Are you salty?
a little bit, sometimes.
Don't even go there. Okay, so anyway, the point is I just made it more interesting, okay? So I took that boring question and whatever the answer is, I at least had an opinion, had some feedback about it. But the key part of game, again, is expressing yourself, expressing your attractive qualities as fast as possible, and questions just don't do it, okay? For the most part. And the reason I say statements, not questions, is not actually because questions are inherently bad, but because most people ask boring questions as filler. There actually are questions that are good. Here's an interesting question. So say you find out what somebody did for a living, and you say, oh, that's interesting, say they're a doctor or whatever. So you're like, you know what, I always have this interesting perspective on doctors. Were you the girl that in kindergarten you stood up and you're like, I want to be a doctor? Or is it something you came to later? Because I feel like there's really two different classes. Which are you? Does that make sense? That's a question she hasn't heard before, and it's a question that actually is a little deeper. Force her to think, actually is about getting to know her. And by the way, I'm not saying this is a question you should all ask right now, but it's a question you should maybe ask if you find the answer interesting, right? If you're actually intrigued by that question, then by all means ask it. But don't ask it because I'm intrigued by it, okay? Ask what you genuinely want to know yourself, okay? Right? So, for example, it can be even rude, but sometimes I'll ask people, did you get into that because your parents made you, or did you actually want to do that yourself? Right? It's a little bit rude even, but it's my own unique perspective, it's conveying my personality, it's challenging them, it's being willing to walk away, it's not being attached to the outcome, so it actually conveys a lot of good things, even if it is a little rude.
It's genuine too.
It is, well, assuming I actually mean it and actually care, then yes. Yeah, absolutely, okay? So statements rather than questions, or more importantly than this, it's this. Convey you, and it's this. Assume the burden. There's that moment at the start of the conversation when the conversation hasn't really begun and somebody has to take the initiative to make it happen, right? Have you ever that moment when you're standing in line next to a hot girl and you want to say something and she might even be looking over and you can kind of, maybe she even would like to say something, but nothing's going to happen unless you take the initiative and start it, right? And then maybe you say something and she kind of laughs, haha, that's funny anyway. Haha, that's funny, that's so cool. And then she kind of doesn't know what to say, and so she nervously goes back to and if you were to continue it, you probably could do something, but there's that moment of impetus. You have to do something again, right? You have to assume the burden. You have to take responsibility for the conversation starting because she won't. Because let's look at, did I talk about this yet? Okay, that's actually the next is female psychology. We'll talk about that in a second, female psychology. But female psychology, basically, she can't be a slut. If she were to help you sleep with her too much, she's a little too slutty. So she can't really. So you have to assume the burden. The way I look at it is a little bit like starting a lawnmower. Those old school, I don't even know, I haven't mowed the lawn in so long, but there's old school, when I was a kid, lawnmowers where you pull the choke and it starts and then dies, and then starts and then dies. And it doesn't even make sense. The 10th pull, it finally works or whatever, right? But you just have to keep fucking pulling it, right? It's the same thing with conversation sometimes. You say that one little thing and the conversation, silence. Then you have to like assume the burden and say something else and blah, 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 blah. Oh, silence. And then at some point, the motor just starts running and the conversation just goes organically, right? But you have to assume the burden at the start. So that's the other thing you're doing with statements, not questions. I'll take quickly if they're on topic. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying that you're trying to be more of a talkative force in the conversation throughout?
Just at the start. You have to do, think of it this way. There's like the, I'll draw a little, we'll do it on a different page just because. So think of it this way. So this is like time, energy. So let's call this like the energy threshold. And so at the start, there's like no energy. You have to put in some energy, and then it'll go back down. You put in some energy, it'll go back down. And then you get it above it, you put in some energy, it goes back, and then you get it above this threshold, and then all of a sudden, it just goes. Does that make sense? So here, you have to keep putting in energy. Once you get it above that threshold and she's really participating, then you're actually better off sitting back and doing less of the work and letting her do more of the work, letting her get more invested. But she won't start investing until you at least get it above that sort of threshold. Make sense? Cool. Yeah.
Well, don't you think it's a bunch of variables? Because like sometimes I notice that in day game, I just do one thing and they respond. Like there's a pregnant pause, but they assume the burden. And sometimes I have to like continue it. So it's like, is there like a sweet spot, or is there like?
It's calibration.
Right.
It's calibration. Like so, you go in and you pause, and then they go with it sometimes, or sometimes you go in, you pause, and then it goes back down, and then you have to go again, and then it's just calibration. It's okay to leave some pauses. And in fact, I do leave some pauses, but I don't leave so much of a pause that it completely dies at the start. Yeah. Cool. All right. So reasons for statements, not questions. 1, convey you, right? It's all about conveying your values and conveying who you actually are. 2 is you need to assume the burden. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if anyone else has this issue, but rather than running out of things to say, I usually just never stop talking. And I usually don't know where to like stop or kind of see if, because a lot of times I'll get the response that they don't say anything. So
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that maybe the last slide on today, and we're talking about a lot tomorrow. So we'll really get to that. But yeah, that is a problem for sure. One quick thing I'll say is just leave micro silences, right? So instead of like going completely silent, instead of like blah, 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 it's just gonna die eventually, right? Instead, hey, you know what's so interesting about that? Actually, wait, where are you from? Quickly, because I have a reason why I ask.
LA.
Yeah? Cool. So actually something really interesting. Yeah, we can talk about it, right? You said I leave like little pauses, right? That wasn't like the best example of the timing of it. But what I can do is, say if I make a statement, okay? If I make a statement and you don't respond, instead of talking over it, I'll make you respond. So like, when I ask you the question, don't respond immediately, okay? So I'm like, I'm gonna guess you're not from around here.